Day 152. So I've missed the last few days here. It was Luther's birthday. My son turned one, and that created some chaos. And then, we went to out of town for the weekend, which created some more chaos. And we're pretty much never home. And I'm acknowledging that that's hard. But I think in general, what's happening is I'm running into a ceiling with this, and I can't decide what to do with that information. I know I don't want to put more effort into this, and I know if I don't put more effort into this, that it won't be something worth watching. I think it's fine. I need to just let it happen and let it be for a while, and continue to learn and continue to think about it. But I continue to work out. I'm at 146 days straight now, or 146 days. I'm almost 100 days straight. I've been eating like crap still for the last while. As you can see, I've had more red than green in the last 15 days. I'm not going to quit though. I'm already a red day because I had Jimmy John's for lunch today. I think this is one of those times where I'm deciding my goals, and it's not a time to be ashamed of that or to be too hard on myself. I think I've had 5 days off since I last talked to you, and I've been reading a lot. I've finished 2 books. I'm continuing to read about a book a week, and I think that needs to continue. I think that's really helping me focus on me and improving me and what to do next and all that stuff. I think I've just learned so much in the last couple days that I really want to talk through. It's gonna be hard to separate them all out, but first of all, I finished this book, Anthony DeMello Awareness. Tim Ferriss sent it out as a recommendation on Twitter. I bought it, read through it. It took me probably a week and a half, and it's out there, and I love that it's out there. It's from a Jesuit priest, one of the highest order priests, I guess, and he effectively talks through. It's funny. I read the whole book, and it's hard for me to describe what it's even about, which is crazy, right? It's about awareness, the name of the book, but it's about effectively trying to recognize each individual moment in your life and everyone's life as being a unique, original moment. And we as humans and animals like to use our brains that are really powerful to guess what is about to happen and label things and use words to describe things in a manner that removes the mystery and therefore the interest in everything. And he effectively argues that don't do that. Don't let that happen. When your brain starts to do that, try to pull it back and remember. I think it's kind of what I talk about sometimes too, which is that we're a rock spinning around in space, and there's a 1 in 3 trillion chance that you are you, let alone you being here today, and that anyone can be any way at any time. And when we assume we know what's about to happen, we really remove the mystique of our reality. The analogy I've tried to come up with is the analogy of humans can only see a very, very small part of the spectrum of light. spectrum of waves, and we like to believe that that's our world around us, but there's a whole nother world that's kind of floating around around our heads that we have no vision on, and we can use science to like calculate things, but it doesn't really give you the full story. And so he kind of argues that that's what God is, that's what religion should be based off of, not kind of weaponizing the Bible, but like using that concept that the quote he uses a lot is Thomas Aquinas, and he says one of the famous Thomas Aquinas quote is that we shouldn't assume that we have more than the brain of a fly when it comes to God and religion and Jesus and everything. We should really assume that we have smaller than amount of knowledge when it comes to all that. And I think it's the argument is, that we're just so simple that placing labels on things is the only way that we can manage our reality, and therefore we take those labels to create expectations, and then therefore we're unhappy because those expectations exist, rather than being expectationless and trying to embrace each moment as its own unique moment, the same way that a child embraces the world because it's their first moment before they label everything. So I bought one of his next books, and I'll keep going down that road. It's kind of anti-capitalism. It's kind of anti-everything. It's kind of anti-doing. It's kind of like just enjoy everything. Don't actually do anything. And I don't know. It's an interesting take. I think it's a good tool to put in my tool belt for when I'm with my kids, and for when I'm trying to see the beauty in everything. And I'm sure he would argue I should be doing this all the time. I think it's a balance. He kind of argues that you can't feel love until you're all alone, because whenever you're with other people, you're placing expectations on yourself or them in the conversation and the relationship and everything. And you can't actually love anybody until you stop relying on them for anything. And I think it's an interesting concept that would make more sense to me if I didn't have kids, but kids make me feel love. So it's like, I don't feel like the answer is to stop speaking to them. I think I know I'm taking it literally and I shouldn't be, but I think the answer is to respect that there's different ways to feel that way. And I can agree and understand that like having less expectations on people and in relationships is a very positive way to view your reality, and be happier and feel love. I just get caught up because that I found other ways to do that too, from where I sit. So I think that's where I can only think about it so much at once. But the next book I finished this weekend is called The One Thing by Gary Keller. And then I found this morning after I finished the book that Gary Keller actually is like the founder of Keller Williams, like the property real estate people. And I didn't know that actually, which is funny. But I would highly recommend to anybody. First, I would recommend Atomic Habits, but that's probably the second book I'd recommend to people, The One Thing. And I think the ironic thing about The One Thing is it's getting me focused. And I think if there is one word that seems to bubble up to the surface every time, I get closer to, I'm going to say, great people, closer to people that are winning awards, making a lot of money, very intelligent, whatever. Great people that I want to be like. The one thing that they seem to always be very, very good at and very resilient about is their focus. I'm in the middle of reading a different book about Jeff Bezos, about Amazon and everything, and that focus comes up in that one all the time. Everyone likes to talk about Steve Jobs with focus, and it's I think it's a muscle. I think there's certain people that have it, at least I'm told based on reading books about them, that they have intense focus. But I do think there's a lot of people that that's not the case. And the point I think will hammer this home is Bezos talks a lot about focus and being obsessed with customers and everything. And in the book and in his interviews, he first of all, he does something that's really cool, which is kind of like the awareness book. Is he pretty much? I'm gonna assume that this is not for public. It's actually his actual personal beliefs. I could be wrong. It seems like it's his personal belief, but that he truly believes that every time he wins, meaning goes out on a venture and makes money with it or wins market cap or whatever, that he views it as like results of a lottery ticket he won. And I think it's a good way to be humble when you win and be smart about the next step, is to not take it too much for granted as I have all of this power and knowledge, and no one can stop me. So he pretty much says, and he says this in interviews too, he says, that was a lottery ticket. I took that lottery ticket and I decided to double down and try to win another lottery ticket. And one of his lottery tickets, I mean, he goes through them all, which are very valid, that he was born in the United States. Warren Buffett says this too. I was born in the United States. I had two loving parents. I had, enough food on the table. I had like all these things that you really can't argue. Everyone in the history of the world, including a lot of the countries in the world right now, like are, able to say about every person. But Jeff does this fun thing where he, Jeff, my friend Jeff, he does this fun thing where he spent every summer when he was off of school living on his grandparents' ranch from ages 4 through 18 or whatever. And his grandpa was a very handy person that would effectively like work on all the tools, all the machinery, all the animals in this ranch all by himself. He effectively was a veterinarian. He was a machine worker. He would do everything on this ranch to keep everything moving. And him and Jeff would work on this stuff all day, every day. And that he kind of attributes a lot of his focus and inventiveness to that and that mindset, that he effectively grew up in a place where a couple months out of the year he would spend them trying to fix stuff or build stuff with only tools that can be found in a barn, and like they had to be so creative to fix stuff. And his grandpa would take on these extreme rebuilding a bulldozer, these extreme projects, and have no knowledge of how to do it and figure it out along the way. And it taught him that's how you do stuff. That's how you get stuff done. That's how you grow. That's how you work, is that no one's going to teach you. There isn't like this group of people that's going to just line up and help you. It's you just go figure it out yourself. And the point I'm trying to make is coming back to focus, is when I think about that and I think about how to be more focused in my life and teach my kids that kind of focus, I get stuck. Because if I was to send one of my children, let's say we're both of them, to a ranch in Texas with my dad, who I would say is very handy and knows a lot of how to do this stuff. I don't know if he'd be rebuilding bulldozers in his 60s, but it's something he could do. But my point is, I think that time has passed, because my kids would want to watch TV, would want to play on their tablet, would want to play on their phone, would want to do all these things, they would still be connected to the world otherwise. They still have the internet to connect them to everything. And so in that way, the internet's a bad thing, because it removes the necessity of focus. It removes the necessity of solving a problem yourself and trying hard and failing and trying again. And I'm just picturing Jeff Bezos and his grandfather on this ranch fixing stuff. And I'm not picturing this kid that is bored and doesn't want to be there. And I have no idea what actually happened, right? He might have hated it. Who knows? He's a teenager, you know? But most of my teenage years were spent wishing I was somewhere else, wishing I was anywhere else, doing anything else. But I really think the internet hurt me in that way, that it was possible, to be looking something up or watching something or doing something that I wanted to do or was interested in at any moment of any day, any time. And I think I can figure it out more so now and don't place as much emphasis, and I don't like get sad about that anymore. But like when I was a teenager, if I was sent away to a place without internet, I would find that very frustrating. And if I was sent away to a place with internet, I wouldn't want to do anything else other than play on the internet. And I wouldn't be so focused to help my dad or grandfather fix a bulldozer that I would work on it from 6 a to 7 p or something. Like, I can see how if you put a child in a bubble with no internet, and this would have to be pre-internet, I guess, when if they're put into a bubble where there's no means of distraction, you know, because there's no TV, there's no internet, there's no smartphones, there's nothing to like wish you had instead. And this was like in the 80s. This is how it was effectively. I'm sure they had TV, but like I just think about that as interesting. I don't know what to do with the information completely yet, but I know that an upbringing in which focus is that important of a lesson that's taught every day is significant and is dying in this world. It's really hard for me to focus on anything for an hour or two with everything trying to distract me. And I know that's like a common thing everyone wants to talk about, but I was just kind of thinking about it in terms of my own life and how to get more done, do more, be more like these great people. And that was just an interesting anecdote to myself of like, I've never been in an environment where the internet wasn't available. Like when I turned like 10 or 12, like it was pretty much right there and I could play with it and do stuff all day. And I don't think I ever regret about that, but I do think it's hard for me to understand how a child like Jeff Bezos in this scenario, like what their world is and what their reality is, because when you grow up with something like that where you just kind of don't have any other resources and your only thing to do all day, you have no friends, is to help your grandpa fix stuff. I can see how you would view like life as work and life as one and the same, and inventiveness is the only thing that is interesting. I don't know. I think I'm still trying to flesh out and fully understand that idea, but it's still in my head about what world would, or I should say, how does that influence kids? Being able to get the answer right away and not have multi-day projects where they have to struggle. And I think I have a problem with that. If I struggle on something for more than a day or two, I really think I'm a failure, and it's not good enough, that it's my fault. And I definitely jumped to that conclusion pretty quickly. That's my fault. And I think that's a growth opportunity for me to avoid that behavior and not take it so personally. I think I need to try to picture myself alone on a ranch more often than I am, because the internet seems like such an easy out for any problem you have. It feels like the internet will tell you the answer, and if you can't figure out with the internet, it's your fault and you're stupid. that everyone else is figuring that answer out. Google it. Just, it's already done. What are you struggling with? Why is everything such a struggle for you? The internet's already solved that problem. You're stupid that you can't figure it out despite having the internet in your pocket. I just think that's something my brain jumps to quite often. And I really try with Lorelai, my daughter, who's 3 now. I really try to be like, this is really hard when she can't tie her shoes or can't, turn the light on or whatever. Like things that are hard, for her, not me, is to be very honest that they are hard. They are hard at different ages, and maybe I need to dose myself with with that reality and say this is hard, and things things aren't as easy as you want them to be, and that doesn't mean something's wrong with you. Things are hard. Things worth doing are hard, and I think I'm trying to look at this from every different lens to get my head wrapped around it, because it's hard. And when you're in the moment, it's easy to blame yourself. And I've tried the way of, reminding myself this is where other people are quitting, and and it's like a competition kind of vibe. Like I need to beat them. And I think that helps sometimes. But I do think this is a different lens of like a reminder of when I'm feeling like something is really hard and I can't overcome it and I can't do it, that in some ways I've been handicapped by the internet making it so easy to learn and find resources and get help, that it sometimes makes it feel like if I can't figure it out, despite having all these resources, it's my fault and it's my problem and it's my IQ and it's things that I am supposed to be in control of that I'm not, and it reflects on me, the human me, as not being good enough. So I think it's a multiplier, and maybe that's part of why everyone doesn't want to fail anymore, doesn't want to try anything, because whatever you're trying at, there's 1,000 people online that have succeeded at it, and no one talks about the failures, and everyone thinks it's your fault if you fail because there's so many people online that'll teach you how to do it. So that was another thought that I was working through, and like I said, when you take 5 days off, I have a couple of these, so I'll start part 3. There's so many things I want to talk about, but another thing I took away from reading these books and more about I had one night or 2 nights I reflected on myself for a couple hours. I was thinking back of who I was in high school and what I would act like and what I would be like. And I was thinking about college, what I would act like, what I would be like what would it like to be my roommate? What would it be like to be dating me? What would it be like to be my friend? And I think these are good things to think through throughout your life, because you can only remember a couple years of what your actual personality was like. And I think I'm coming up to the cusp of forgetting what my actual personality was like when I was 16 or 18 or 20 or 22. And I mean, thank God I've done so much therapy in the last 10 years that I think I've squashed a lot of what I used to be like. But I think it still comes out sometimes too. But my point I'm trying to make is, first of all, thank God that there's some videos of me so I can actually like see it a little bit. And, it's hard to feel it again, but, something like feel it again. But second, it's, I know it's only going to get worse. I'm only going to remember less about what that person was like. And I almost like had the idea of like interviewing my old like college roommates, and asking them what I was like, and what it was like, and like being my roommate. I'm sure they have a bunch of stories of me being a total idiot. Um, and I was just reflecting their day of like, on one hand side of the coin, it's like how different I am, how far I've come. Am I that different? Or yes or no, like why and how. But on the other hand, like, um, is any of this my fault? You know, like, I guess one would argue like, who cares? I mean, in some ways, I regret acting that way, but in other ways, that's who I was at the time, and I I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of everyone is a product of their environment in some way, and I of course don't want to like harm people, um, but I don't think I was noticing that I was harming people, which was the hard part. I don't think I was noticing that I was helping people either. I think I was very unaware of everything, and it's another part of the awareness book that's kind of like come out to me is like at different points in time, I was I'm always influencing people, good or bad, and it took me years of therapy to realize that. Because I used to, um, my biggest fear in life was to be fake to somebody, originally, and that comes from my parents and childhood stuff. Whatever, I'll talk about that a different day. But it comes from not wanting to be fake to people. And so if I was having a bad day, or if I was not feeling good or feeling depressed, I would be very depressed in front of everybody. And I would be very downer in front of everybody. And I would be very critical in front of everybody. And I'm a very judgy person deep down, too. And I'm sure I'd let that out all the time. And looking back, it's hard for me to understand how anybody wanted to hang out with me, how anybody wanted to like be my friend or spend time with me, because I'm sure I was such a like annoying person to be around. So I guess credit to them for sticking to it regardless. But I really I really believe that I don't know what the word is. I see more now about the influence that behavior has on people, and in being myself, I was harming people. I was having people's day be worse for interacting with me, and that's not something I want to be associated with. I want to improve people's days and lives by interacting with them. And so that's something that therapy's helped me notice and fix so that I don't present myself as that way. I mean, I think I've also used therapy and other methods as a tool to reduce that depression and anxiety so I have less of it to even exude. But um, I think I think the hardest part of all of this, and when I say this, I mean life, is it's seeing yourself for what you are, and seeing yourself as you are, and it's seeing what your best intentions actually are from a third person's perspective, because often your best intentions are totally misguided when it comes to how they actually show up to somebody, like show up to real life. Whenever I thought I was doing something, good or bad or whatever, I'm sure it did not turn out that way, whatever way I intended it, um, pretty often. And I can see how on one hand, felt bad about that, but on the other hand, like that was always really hard for me, like feeling like slapped with this like reaction from somebody when I thought I was helping or hurting or whatever, and you receive the exact opposite reaction. And it took me a long time to like grow the amount of empathy that a normal person has, because I feel like I was like either born with or had a lot less to start with from my upbringing or whatever, of empathy, of understanding where people are coming from. And I would I would be just trying so hard to change everybody every way, and I'd be very critical and very argumentative, and I needed to be right for some weird reason about everything. And and I think the hard part is that that is who I am deep down. you know that I have to be extra mindful of what I say and do, because it's easy for me to be very stuck on my own head about things, about my own thoughts or emotions or worries or whatever, that it's constantly a reminder to me that I need to remember that it's not about me. It's about everybody. It's about the conversation. It's about the relationship. It's about like that person is having just as good or bad of a day as me. And I think it took me until I was 25 or 26 to realize that it's not that I believe this, but in some form, I just never comprehended that everyone else has a life too, a brain too, a voice in their head too. Like, it's not that I thought I was special. It's just like I could never comprehend it. I could never comprehend that my actions make other people's voice in their head say mean things to them, just like their actions do it to me. And it's not a circle you want to jump into. I don't. I continue to this day, 33 years old now, to be scared of how I influence people. And I only want to influence people in a good way. But sometimes, or very often, it's hard to know what that even is. So, the more books I read, they say, don't worry about it. Don't care how you're influencing people. And I think that's a great goal. But I think I inherently, or my personality is very not helpful if I turn it way down. But I think in therapy I've done a lot of like, I need to care more about this. I need to care less about this. I need to care more about this. I need to care less about this, all in hopes of not hurting anybody. But also not hurting me. Should I not hurt everyone else? Should I not hurt me? In the how much do I care about everything, or how much do I just be myself? How much do I avoid everything? And all I'm trying to say is, it's complicated, and it's still a work in progress for me. I've spent so much of my life, um, saying and doing whatever I wanted, because I was so scared to. Well, first of all, it's because of ignorance, because I didn't understand how I was influencing people. And then I was so scared that I was influencing everybody, that I didn't want to influence anybody. That's why I wear boring shirts, and I don't have a weird haircut, and I just don't really want to say or do anything that will cause anybody to be upset, happy, bad, sad, anything. I just don't want to be associated with the influence. And now I feel like I'm trying to grow into a new version of me, where I accept the fact that I must influence you by my existence, and I accept the fact that it can't always be positive, and I accept the fact that sometimes short-term positive is long-term negative, and sometimes short-term negative is long-term positive. And it's also really not my choice how you take our interaction. It's not I can't control that. It's totally out of my hands if I'm helping you or hurting you, with my influence. With somebody that's way worse than me at something, I might be influencing them in a good way. If someone's way better than me at something, I might be influencing them in a bad way. And I think I've created a monster in my own journey of anxiety, thinking that I need to avoid all this somehow. and it's my fault if I can't avoid influencing people. And I think I'm trying to grow into somebody who, it's always a balance. It's like I want to see people as they are, not judge them artificially, not push them if they don't want to be pushed. My slogan has been meet them at the level of relationship that they want to be at, meet them at the level of communication that they want to be at. If they want to talk about deep things, let's talk about deep things. If they talk about surface level things, let's talk about surface level things. Like try to not be whatever they want me to be, but just do not pull the relationship into a spot where it doesn't need to go, or that both parties don't want it to go. And I think that's a positive step, but I think the next step after that is honestly, it's seeing people as they are and, not pushing and pushing, but also it's acknowledging that I'm a person who wants things and I need to ask for them in order to receive them. And that's always been hard for me because usually asking for something puts you in a conflict with somebody. Usually it's not something, usually they're happy to give it to you, but usually it's uncomfortable to ask and need something and trust somebody and ask for something you need. And I think I think that's something I'm working on growing into. And what's kind of creating all of that energy is realizing that all of these people whose books I'm reading, that's what they do. They want something and they go get it. And it's not that they don't care about people or that if they're hurting people or helping people. It's that they have more of a why sorted out. They have more of a purpose. They have more of a mission sorted out. And the mission overtakes the uncomfortability or the conflict that it creates. And I don't think I've gotten to that level yet. And so the next, I think, couple days and weeks and maybe months, hopefully not months, but the next little while that I'm going to work on is the why. Because I don't think I have a great why. So story time. Story time. In part of my Jeff Bezos book spree that I'm on, and this is an Elon Musk thing too. They ironically both have the exact same idea, or it's very similar ideas, that they in the Jeff Bezos book, they say that he really wanted to be valedictorian, and so he worked really hard and became valedictorian. And great, I'm sure that was hard, but he, in his valedictorian speech, he literally says, as an 18-year-old kid, he literally says, my life goal is to go to space and to colonize other planets, because he was a big Star Trek nerd. And he literally says, that's my goal in life. And Elon Musk has a similar one, like colonize Mars, or, to be a multi-planet species, to grow in that way and grow our humanity that way. And this is in early 80s, late 70s or something. And it's interesting to me because what does that have to do with Amazon? What does that have to do with a lot of things? What does that have to do with his first couple jobs he took? It's like he had these grand ideas of what he wanted to do with his life, but he needed the kindling, which was a really good idea to make a lot of money to do it. Both Musk and Bezos wanted to create multiplanetary species and go to space a lot and fix our progress in space because they thought we were not progressing fast enough. Um, and not only did they go and do that and invent that future themselves, but they realized that in order to do that, they needed to make a lot of money. And so in like a lot of ways, I was thinking about this the other day, is like, it's almost like Bezos realized that he needed to create a huge billion-dollar or bigger company. And he was walking around going, it's like he takes it one step at a time. And he starts with the end in mind and then backs into it. And this is a good thing that we should all think about and think through is, think of it this way. It's I don't know how anyone would build an interplanetary space company. That seems like a crazy idea. But think of it this way. If your goal is to create an interplanetary space company, and in order to do so, you need to have, let's say, $10 billion. And let's say you have $0 right now, or maybe 100 grand in the bank or something. How can you do that? Both Bezos and Elon Musk decided to start internet companies with the idea and hope that it will make them a good chunk of money to then be able to double down and bet on the space company. And I think in like Y Combinator and startups and like how companies get formed and everything, like the idea that I would start a company in hopes of it becoming big so that one day I can use that money to go to space, it seems very confusing and chaotic and hard to process, because it's not just that whole like that. I mean, you can argue that the logic makes sense or whatever, or it doesn't, but the idea that they're staying up all night, pulling all-nighters to work on a company that they don't really believe in, like that's a stepping stone company, is kind of crazy. And I think it goes back to what I was talking about originally, which is focus. Is they focus so intensely on their long-term goal that the short-term day-to-day operations of that thing, and they both think really long-term too, it feels like they can get there. They can work. They don't take it as personally, is what I'm taking away from this. Is like they viewed PayPal and Amazon as a vessel, a space shuttle, a rocket to get them where they wanted to go, which was actually space. They viewed their companies as stepping stones. And I think it's an interesting logic to follow, because then you don't take the company personally. You take it as a means to complete your life goal. And they both did this. Musk famously sold PayPal, or merged with Peter Thiel actually, and then sold it. But they both didn't wrap themselves and their whole lives into it. I think they always managed risk, and they always managed leverage, and they didn't. I think the thing that I'm finding myself stuck on, well, there's two things. One that I think I can beat, and one that I'm working on. I don't know the answer yet. The two things are, one, I think I'm getting myself too wrapped up in my company, and I'm thinking of it as a reflection of how good or bad I am at something, or at living, or at competing, or I don't know. And I acknowledge that is a problem I need to fix. But knowing the problem and knowing the answer are good. I can work towards that. And I can see the benefits of not wrapping yourself up in that kind of logic. That is detrimental to the company and you. That it's all not helpful. So that's one. And the second thing is that I've realized is I need a bigger idea. I need a bigger goal or mission. And these two dudes had it from a pretty early age, as their life mission to live in another planet or create another colony somewhere else. And Sam Altman talks about this too, is that people that achieve great things usually have the ability to dream so large that even their great achievement is minute to what they thought they could do or want to do or will do. And I think I've never dreamed big enough. Like, I think the biggest dream I've had is that PadStats can be a Zillow rival, and that's the biggest dream I've ever had. And I don't know if I necessarily believe that even right now. But the thing I'll say is I can see how it's very powerful to have that kind of mission, because I think that helps you create that level of focus. If my life purpose was to colonize Mars, I think I wouldn't check Twitter 20 times a day. I might fall into bad habits. I don't know. But I think it'd be easier to create good habits, and it'd be easier to create people around me that will get me there, because it's easy to know how big of a problem and mission that is, that you don't think you can do it half-assed. Like, I feel like every company I've thought through starting or trying has always been half-assed. And I think it's half-assed because of my focus. And I think my focus might be lacking because I'm lacking a mission. And so that's been interesting to me, is how do I, first of all, is that true? Is that a passing thought, or is that real? I think it's real. But, second of all, right now, my goal and my mission and my purpose for everything I'm working on is to be a great leader and mentor and thing for my kids to watch every day as they grow up. And the hard part is that person doesn't need to colonize Mars to be happy. That person, needs to be a good dad. And I don't have a bigger mission than that right now, and I don't know if I ever will, honestly. But my point is, I need to think through that more about mission and purpose and goals, because I don't have a good long-term mission or purpose or goal. I mean, the kids one is long-term and perfect. I guess I'm thinking through the limitations of it, because in a lot of ways it's it's going to be in conflict with a lot of things that are bigger, and maybe that means I'm not destined to be bigger, and maybe that's just who I am, and that's okay. I definitely, at this moment in my life, November 13th, 2023, I know for a fact I do not execute like billionaires do. Like, I don't think as large as them. I don't push as hard as they do. I don't push myself, trust myself, sell myself. I don't, the closer I read Jeff Bezos, things, like, if I was doing my best Jeff Bezos impression, I would be calling and messaging and emailing and writing letters to all these different great real estate people to help build PadStats right now. And I'm not doing that. And I don't know if that's the right thing to do. And I don't know if that's the right thing to do, because I don't really know what I want it to be. And I don't really know what I want to be in that. goal or in that lifestyle. I was listening to a podcast with Tony Robbins, and another great guy that's a doer, an executor. And he tells a story about how he, was just starting off, and he effectively got his work permit to give a seminar canceled the day of the seminar. And rather than just like quit and give the money back and do all the things I would have done, right, is apologize, try to make it up to somebody. And this is me holding a seminar, which I haven't ever done, but assuming I've figured out how to do a seminar and I have the balls to do it, and then somebody still cancels me and shuts it down, do I have the balls to double down and still have the seminar anyways and like bless the people across the country to my seminar where I can have a work visa? Like, I'm just learning that these guys have such balls, to just double down when everyone is telling them to just stop. And I I can't argue that it's a bad quality. I can argue that it's not a good quality, but it's hard to, like, the results speak for themselves. And I think that's where the mission comes into play. It's like, if they have this mission, it's really hard for Jeff Bezos, having $1 billion, to look at his life, look at his company, and look at his mission and go, we're going to double down and we're going to go get 50 billion, and I'm willing to risk this 1 billion lotto ticket to get the next 50 billion lotto ticket. And that's kind of what he's always done. And that's what Elon Musk has always done, is just double down on everything. And I think it's because they have these grand missions that they kind of feel like a failure having just $1 billion, and like I said, I'm noticing it. I don't really know what to do with that information yet because I don't have a $50 billion mission to go to space. But it seems like going to space is the most expensive, resource-intense mission to possibly have. So I can see how that's a really good life goal, because that's impossible, effectively. It's one of the last impossible things on Earth, to do, is to build a colony on Mars. Like, it's laughable, right? Because it's so impossible. But I'd argue it's one of the last impossible things we couldn't do with enough time or resources or money, like it's. So, I'm going to wrap this up, but that was, most of the stuff I want to talk about. I have some more things, but that's what happens in 5 days of me not having one of these sessions, is I get all backed up with all these, things I'm learning and wanting to talk through. And it gets stuck in my head, and I want to just discuss it with somebody. So, I'm gonna work on that for the next couple. I'm hoping it's like 3 weeks, maybe, hopefully less. I know it sounds stupid to say I'm gonna come up with my life's mission in the next 3 weeks, but I think the point is to don't pretend that it's going to happen by itself on accident. I'm sure there are Bezoses and Musks and people out there where it makes sense to them at an early age that they're going to do these things, but I'm not one of those people. I'm 33 years old, and I just said it. I don't have a mission. I don't really want to go to space, So what is my mission? I mean, I would love to end suffering, but that seems pretty hard, or hard to take steps towards. I want to help people. I really want to help people achieve their dreams. I like coaching people, but I don't really know what that means or how to execute on that. And it's on me to figure that stuff out. So that's what I'm gonna work on. I'm gonna do some reflections over the next couple of days and see if I come up with something. And hope I get there. Hope I figure it out. But I don't think I'm gonna figure it out on accident. I think I need to spend actual time reflecting and meditating and thinking creatively about how to best help my kids, how to best help my family, how to best help people. And maybe Tony Robbins is a better example of a route I should take, because that's kind of what he's all about. That's his mantra, more than going to space. So I think it's just about. I think I've always done this, like a lot of people do with their marriage. Is a lot of people point to their spouse and they go, "You must be everything for me. You must be my therapist, my best partner, my best friend, my closest confidant, my financial beacon, my intimate partner, my everything, and my co-parent in every way of that, word." And at the end of the day, they're looking at each other saying, "You're not being enough for me right now," and it's all about expectations. And realizing that person isn't going to be everything for you. And I think I need to take that same approach with mentors. I think I need to realize that I probably won't find one mentor for everything. And I think Bezos is a great mentor. I think I can't get on board with the space thing, though. I think that I need to find my own path towards the life mission. And maybe Tony Robbins is a better one for that then. I don't know. We'll keep working on that, but something to think through. Cover a lot today, but I'll continue to read books because I am talking through life purpose and mission. I'm going to start this book today. Start with Why. How great companies and leaders start with why to help facilitate them becoming great. So I still have a big stack of books to get through, but I'll keep working on it, and we'll get there, wherever that's going. So, all right, I'll see you later.